fifth Sunday of Lent. The antiphon of the resurrection of Lazarus, Videns Dominus Flentes, is the communio of the fifth Sunday of Lent. Videns Dominus Flentes sorores Lazari ad monumentum, lacrimatus est coram Iudeis, et clamabat Lazare veni foras, et prodiit ligatis manibus et pedibus, qui fuerat quatriduanus mortuus. Translation: The Lord, seeing the sister of Lazarus, who were weeping at the tomb, broke out weeping before the Jews, and cried out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come out! And there emerged with hands and feet wrapped in the strips of cloth, the one who had been dead for 4 days. The communion antiphons of the Lenten season demonstrate the complexity of the liturgical observances that determine their placement and the various rearrangements. The most immediate lesson that can be gathered from this is that the Gregorian communio is not, as perhaps is generally thought, a Eucharistic chant. The text of this moment of the Mass, which in most cases is taken from the Book of Psalms, instead alludes to the Gospel reading of that same celebration, and constitutes a further commentary on it. In this case, too, as on the previous Sundays of Lent, the text of the Communio is the synthesis of an episode of the Gospels, and as such is the fruit of the skillful combination of words, passages, phrases that are able to present in a concise manner the meaning of an account, a parable, a teaching. The Communio Videns Dominus narrates the miracle, or more precisely the sign, of the resurrection of Lazarus, which the current liturgy places on the fifth Sunday of Lent in cycle A of the lectionary. The text of the antiphon draws upon 5 verses of chapter 11 of the Gospel of John, taking from them a few phrases that not only effectively summarize the unfolding of the event, but are also accompanied by a deft and precise procedure of syntonization. The result is a crescendo of expressive intensity, ascending climax, which on the basis of the ordinary narration gradually reaches its peak in the command of Christ proclaimed in a loud voice, Lazare veni foras, Lazarus come out, and then descends just as gradually again, descending climax or anticlimax, after the miracle has been performed. The piece unfolds in an almost entirely syllabic style, and deserves attention above all because of the testimony that is offered to it, at least in the first half of the antiphon, by the notation of long, reproduced above the square notes of the Vatican notation. This is the notation of long. If the underlying St. Gallian notation leaves as always to the virga and to the tractulus, the indication of the acute virga and grave tractulus accents of the syllabic pieces, the Codex of Long instead makes a clear distinction between the first and the second semiphrase, a distinction that is helpful in this context because it pertains to the character of the narration. Long Codex, the most important member of the Math Codex family, written in the 10th century, uses a specific script called uncinus, this is uncinus, which have encountered regularly in this piece, beginning with the lacrimatus of the second semiphrase. Lacrimatus est coram Iudeis et clamabat, uncinus. This basic notational cell varies its dimensions in relation to the musical value it is intended to represent. From the ordinary syllabic value, translated by the uncinus of normal dimensions, to an indication of special rhythmic fluidity through the reduction of the marks to a simple point. The logic of the math codices, foreign to those of St. Gall, appears here in all its singularity, and demonstrates the different pace of the recitative in the first two semiphrases. The weeping of the sisters of Lazarus is marked by the long codex with a succession of points, interrupted only by an uncinus with the T of tenete, of the accent of flentes. This emphasis finds correspondence in the underlying notation of St. Gall in the virga endowed with an episema, the dash added to the top of the virga itself, which amplifies its value, and is the only expressive point in the rapid flow of the third semiphrase. Flentes, virga, episema in St. Gall. What is emphasized next is the weeping flentes of the sisters of Lazarus, but this is a subdued weeping, immediately overshadowed in importance by the weeping of Christ himself, who, as the text of John puts it in expression unique in all that gospel, burst into tears. Lacrimatus est. For this reason, this second semiphrase is written not in simple points anymore, but with a succession of uncini in long, with their full value, which are maintained until the expressive culmination reached at the powerful command of Christ, Lazarus, come out, Lazare, veni foras. If the notation of long has brought to light the differences of rhythm, and therefore of meaning, found in the first part of the antiphon, it is now the script of St. Gall, below the Vatican notation, that plays its best cards in this powerful central passage. We find in fact an eloquent virga with episema of extended duration over the accent of Lazare, but we find above all two consecutive virgae with episema over both syllables of foras, a particularly strong emphasis of this passage. But according to the logic of Einsiedel Codex, the most illustrious witness of the St. Gallian school of notation, there is much more. This valuable codex, in its boundless repertoire of the Mass, uses the same procedure, 2 consecutive virgulae with episema over monosonic syllables, in only one other case, the Communio Oportet Te, also Lenten and with its text taken from the Gospels. This brief antiphon recounts the conclusion of the parable of the prodigal son, where the father addresses the older son, Frater tuus mortus fuerat et revixit. Your brother was dead and has come back to life. It is precisely on this last verb, revixit, that we find the 2 consecutive virgulae with episema, revixit. The expressive power of the St. Gallian indication finds full meaning and profound significance in the fact that in the whole repertoire this codex reserves such special treatment for these 2 cases alone. They are linked by the fact that they speak of instances of resurrection. Their true expressive power, moreover, is revealed only in the comprehension of their calling out to one another. The expressive culmination of the Communio Videns Dominus coincides with the melodic apex of the piece, from which the modal construction gradually descends until it reaches with ordinary rhythm and syllabic treatment the important final cadence. The closing of the antiphon insists on an aspect of great importance, which in the Gospel text acts as a premise for the miraculous sign. Lazarus was quadriduanus mortus, dead for 4 days. 4 days. Gregorian monody concentrates its attention on these 2 final words. The weight of the 2 descending notes, clivis, clivis, of the accent of quadriduanus, is amplified, and the final cadence is enriched with notes in a way that is entirely special in relation to the syllabic style maintained until that point. Finally, a detail concerning the verse of the psalm that accompanies the antiphon must be pointed out. The ancient manuscripts surprise us with a touching decision. To the weeping of the sisters of Lazarus and the weeping of the Lord is added our own weeping, pluremus ante eum. Pluremus ante eum. Let us weep before him. On this 5th Sunday of Lent, this was once called the 1st Sunday of the Passion.
Fides Domini